All right. Thank you for joining me. I'm Brian Banks from Your Career Day. Can you give us your name?
My name is Michael Townsend.
Okay, Michael, where's your hometown?
My hometown is still Flint, Michigan. I currently live in Lansing, Michigan, but I always have to give out a shout to Flint because that's where I grew up.
All right. What is your career title?
My career title is budget director.
Okay. And budget director for who?
I'm budget director for Ingham County,
Okay.
which is seated right in the Lansing area. It basically has Lansing, Okemos, the main areas, largest cities that it covers.
Okay. Now, what does your job entail?
Budget director, I'm responsible as budget director. I'm responsible for the entire budget. We have a general fund budget of about $90 million annually.
Okay.
And we have an overall budget of about this year it was like $323 million.
Okay.
That budget basically covers all the expenses for Ingham County.
Mhm.
Everything, there are roughly about 30 departments that function in different areas. And we do everything from that includes the roads to the sheriff, to law and courts, human services, county services, all of those different activities.
Okay. Now, what type of education is required?
In this case, the minimum will require a bachelor's degree in accounting.
Okay. All right. Now, what type of person is best suited to be a budget director?
Probably a person who is interested, first of all, in numbers.
Okay.
It's the basis of that. That's how I got into it, is that I was always an accounting person. I'm a numbers person in terms of that.
Yeah.
I love math. And then I stumbled in college. Wanted to be a lawyer, actually.
Okay.
And I had spoken with lawyers prior to that, and they said, well, don't get a degree in pre-law, because it limits you after 4 years. You're gonna go into law. What else could you do?
Yeah.
So they said, get something you enjoy. So I did. I looked at being a mathematician, and but a counselor said, well, why don't you try business? And I said, okay. So I did business, and I took my first accounting course then and fell in love with accounting.
Okay.
And changed all of my plans after that, and have been in accounting all of my career.
Okay. Now, what was your role to your current position? How'd you get here?
Actually, I hired in as budget director as far as that's concerned, but I have held title of budget director prior to that in the municipality in the city of Flint. I was budget director there.
Okay.
I also was finance director there. So I held 2 different positions in that role, but there were many positions that led up to that. I hired in at the city of Flint as a senior budget analyst. I went on to be the budget officer. I took on additional role as a budget officer and liaison to the Department of DCED before becoming the budget director. And then after becoming the budget director, I also took on the position of finance director. So again, my role in terms of doing that prior to my non-government experience, I worked in all different kind of industries throughout Michigan. I've been in the automotive industry. I've been in the manufacturing industry. I've been in the insurance industry, all in accounting roles. I've held titles of controller, premium receivables manager, accounts payable manager. So I've held various titles in accounting throughout my career, but for the last 20 years now, it's been in the government sector. And it's been, like I said, that's where my budget experience came from. Okay.
So how did you know this was a career for you? You talked about, your love of numbers and getting into accounting, but how did you know that this was the career for you?
Well, it was exactly that. When I was in college, like I said, I decided to take business because I said, well, that's interesting, and it gives me to deal with math and numbers. And when I took my first course, I'll never forget it. I was sitting in there in college, and a lot of the people around me were sitting there saying, well, yeah, I took this in high school, and I took 2 semesters, and I took 4 semesters, and I'm sitting there like, okay, I don't even take no semesters. And so they were all like, telling me basically their history, and I was sitting there, I was real quiet because I hadn't taken any. And then the professor that I had, and he became my mentor, but the professor I had that semester, he basically had a pattern of handing out the his scores, and he would hand out the tests from the highest to the lowest.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And the first test, I got my paper like the second one.
Oh,
All
wow.
right. And I'm looking at all these others who said, I had 2 semesters, I had 4. And I was like, okay. That just didn't mean much, obviously. So I was pretty excited from that. I did ace that first test, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came and fell in love with accounting. It was something, again, even my wife had taken accounting in high school, and she had told me a little bit about it, but I just, again, wasn't interested until I took that first course.
Right.
Once I took that course, again, I was hooked, and I said, this is what I want to do. So throughout my career, again, I have stayed that course. I did do, there's been times I've done some other things and flirted with some other issues, but nothing very seriously. Counting has always been my love, and has always done well by me from that standpoint.
All right. So this is a final question.
All right.
What advice would you give to someone that might want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think the advice would be is you have to embrace it. You have to embrace it. It's not always an easy road. So you have to really have a love for it. And if you have a love for it, the ups and the downs will definitely even out. There are benefits, definitely. The accounting field, especially government accounting field, as far as even budget directors, there are not a lot of people in it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can make a lot more money in the private sector in terms of finance and accounting jobs. But as far as security, government will always be around. Okay. Right. It's not going anywhere. So there is security there, and there are some other benefits. There are definitely benefits. Traditionally, when I first got into it, it was the actual fringe benefits that made it nice and made up for the salary not being as high. But now things have changed, and that the salaries are starting to rise to that level to compete. Unfortunately, the benefits are not as high, but they're level from that standpoint, and then the salaries are increasing. So the main thing that I would suggest for anybody is, again, is you have to have a love for numbers. You have to have a love for the job that you're trying to do. And if that's the case, then this is definitely the area I encourage people to do it. And especially, I will say this, there are not a lot of people of color in the government sector, especially when it comes to accounting. There are not a lot of applicants, period, but there's even less of those in color.
Okay.
So it's a field that's wide open, and again, it can be very beneficial from that standpoint.
Okay. Well, Michael, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. We wish you all the best moving forward.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Enjoyed this opportunity.
Thank you.